But there's a lot of talk about just real content versus fake content. I think that's a big discussion happening on YouTube already. I just wonder if like going after the AI side of things, is this the most important thing right now?
I know.
Is it just a hot topic? Is that why we're doing it? AI and like real versus fake, like this is happening in mainstream media. I mean, maybe you've heard like all the things going on with the royal family, like altered photos. I think it's Kate Middleton. She hasn't been seen for a long time.
Okay.
People have been putting pressure on the royal family to put out photos or say, like, is she okay? What's going on? They put out a photo, photoshopped. And it was just like clearly photoshopped, like her and her kids smiling. People tore it apart and could tell like it was just fake. There was some deception intended there. And so like, I do think it's a problem. There is some deception going on all over. I just think that it's not someone's job to decide what's right or what's wrong. It's about education.
Welcome back to the Creator Files podcast. I'm your host, Julia, and your other host, Nathan. We're going to talk about YouTube's new AI tool. I would call it rules. Regulations, maybe.
Interesting marketing, though.
Yeah.
Good try, guys. Good try.
I made it sound all very exciting that you now have this mandatory thing that you have to do on your channel to disclose how much AI you're using if you are using a vague amount of AI. I'm going to put it that way, and we will dive into the very vague specifics. So they describe it as a new tool in Creator Studio requiring creators to disclose to viewers when realistic content a viewer could easily mistake for a real person, place, scene, or event is made with altered or synthetic media, including generative AI. So right off the bat, I understand, like, this has kind of been a scary thing. I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, you know, when who was it? Was it the Elon Musk stuff came out where people, or Tom Cruise, just different stuff where that is way too realistic.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell, but it just makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Like,
people could easily be tricked.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the internet is already confusing enough about what's real. So it is a little concerning. So it's cool that YouTube is doing stuff. I guess I'm torn. I'm curious what your opinion is, Nathan, because to me it is like so vague. They are not really explaining well. I don't think it's not clearly defined. It's very subjective. I'll put it that way. They go into a lot of detail on giving examples. Like they are trying to explain their idea here, but it is so subjective. It doesn't feel like there's any like specific rules around it. So on one hand, cool. They're taking things slow. They're trying to see what works. They're not making any rash decisions or changes. On the other hand, it's kind of like, how do you expect us to do this? Right. And does this just give you all the freedom in the world to take down whatever you want because you were so vague about it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, to me, I initially think, okay, what's YouTube's motivation here? And most likely, they are not motivated to remove content. Videos that are often, AI generated or deep faked or whatever, usually it's of a person saying something they shouldn't be saying, or, it's a hot take or something like that, something that would garner a lot of views. That's why people make those types of videos. And again, that's just one example of what could be, put into this category here, but it's not in YouTube's best interest to take those down.
Yeah, good point.
Advertising money is made when views are done. When someone sees a video, they watch an ad, YouTube makes money. And so that's, to me, doesn't feel like YouTube's motivation.
Right.
My guess is, and just from what I read a lot about, tech companies get a lot of pressure for accuracy of information from governments and, kind of on a political side of things. Like there's a lot of pressure there. And so I just wonder if YouTube is getting some of that pressure because they're a huge media platform. There are a lot of people who go to YouTube not only to consume entertainment, but there's educational content, news, content that could easily sway someone's opinion about very important topics. And so I just wonder if YouTube's getting pressure about things like this where, maybe certain governments or people of interest say, hey, your platform is potentially putting out things or is allowing things that could be seen as untrue, or maybe it is completely untrue or fake. You need to take care of it.
Right.
And so I wonder if it's so vague because YouTube is just doing initially as little as they need to to satisfy whoever it is that wants these measures in place.
Yeah.
And to me, that makes sense because, like I said, their goal is views, and this type of content gets views. And so I think YouTube doesn't want to stifle that because there's a whole lot of people interested in making that kind of content, and which will generate a lot of revenue. But on the other hand, they are somewhat responsible for what's on their platform. And so it's probably just this really delicate balancing act. And probably until they get more pressure, I would imagine, maybe it will just be vague. And that's maybe why it's sort of a self-reporting type thing for now.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, we put this tool in place for all creators. You know, they're going to use it. They're going to say if they're using AI in a certain way, don't worry, guys, we're good. And maybe if that satisfies everybody, then maybe that's as far as it'll go. But I don't know. That's kind of where my mind's at right now. I have no idea if that's the case or not. Completely a theory.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate. It's funny because with like photos, Photoshop has been around for so long. We just know not to trust photos. Like, and so there's very little regulation around that. I mean, thumbnails, you can put whatever you want in a thumbnail, although it sounds like this might apply to thumbnails. Still a little vague on that as well. Mm-hmm. It's like we're just so used to just not trusting a photo. And on one hand, it seems like, well, why can't we just get used to not trusting video? But because this technology is so new, people do trust videos. Right. So it's kind of weird. I wonder if it'll almost die out naturally, where as people learn you can't trust anything anymore, even videos, maybe there won't have to be so much disclosure.
That's probably a good thought. And I think you're probably right. It's just that this is something that is sort of more new and people aren't as familiar with it. Their guard isn't up the same way it might be for a photo.
Yeah.
Probably over time, people will have less trust, I guess, which is sad, but that's kind of what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then maybe there'll be less pressure on YouTube. To me, the funny thing here, and just the way that you introed it and the way YouTube has marketed it, the whole thing of it being a tool. Why? Why do you think they did that? Why are they calling it a tool? I mean, I'd be interested to hear your opinion on that.
I think they're always trying to frame things as positive. I mean, I guess on one hand you could say, well, it's a very convenient way to let your audience know something has AI generated content.
Right.
The fact that it is required, to me, the definition of a tool is something that is useful and kind of optional to use.
Right.
It's no longer a tool if you're making us do it, but I can see that. I would think it would be like, let's say they already had these regulations in place, right? And then later they're like, oh, now you can actually say which specific part of the video and what specific thing is AI generated. Then I would say, okay, that's a tool. That's making it better for us. This doesn't really seem like a tool, but I get why they're trying to be positive.
Yeah. Well, and like there are other things that YouTube has, like disclosing promotional content. Or, you know, saying, who is this for? Is it for kids? Is it for adults?
Right.
Like, they have things like that. They don't call those tools.
Exactly.
It's just a checkbox you check before uploading. So it's just like, could it not just be a checkbox? Is there AI in this video? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. And then there could be a little tag that shows in the video if you say yes. If people are at least aware, like, yes, there's AI in this video, it almost, to me, that feels like, at this point, probably the extent that needs to be taken. I don't know if it needs to be at 1 minute and 45 seconds, I did a unicorn here. And then at, 2 minutes and 45 seconds, I put a hat on this person that didn't actually have a hat on. Like, it feels like granularly, it doesn't really matter, but just maybe an overarching, yes, there's AI in this video. Be aware that some elements may not be actually real.
But I do think it can benefit the creator to have a way to specify it, especially in a very visible way, because, if we're making a video about maybe our ad revenue or, a channel that we've helped and how much they've grown, we don't want people to assume we faked the wrong part. When we put a plant in the background or did some goofy thing with a shark in the background. Like, good point. It's important that people know which part is AI in some cases, just for how much they trust the creator.
Do you think people will actually care that much? Like, I just wonder, like, as most people casually viewing on YouTube, right now we've kind of talked about, like, their guard is down with video.
Yeah.
But AI is becoming more and more real. And so it's just like, in that sort of case, if we have to lay out the 5 places we used AI and say, but we didn't use AI in this one, it almost feels like almost defensive. Like, why gotta be defensive about it, I don't know.
Maybe just don't use it at all if you can't help it.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell because it's going to change so much over time. I think people will care very little if it ends up being very widespread. If it's on like practically every video, people are just going to stop noticing it. People don't seem to spend a lot of time considering what's real on the internet anyways.
Right.
Like I watch videos all the time where there's no reason to lie. But what I always say is, but they're making money on the video. Look at how many videos or views that TikTok or that YouTube short or that video has. People are like, well, why would somebody lie about this? Because they're getting a lot of money for it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be some like internet scam topic for somebody to have a reason to lie about it. And so people don't seem to care anyways. From my experience, I'm shocked at how often somebody will show me a video and I could be wrong, but I think that's fake. If they're a close enough friend, I tell them. But anyways, that's kind of my take on it. Is maybe they won't. People don't seem that concerned anyways. Okay, so I want to go into a little more specifics on what YouTube is saying about this. They're saying that they require creators to disclose meaningfully altered or synthetically generated content that seems realistic. So this meaningfully thing here is basically the entire topic of this discussion. So seems realistic. That makes sense. Like if it's a unicorn, probably nobody's going to think that's real. Cool. The meaningfully thing is what's getting so vague, and they have all these examples trying to explain what they mean. But basically it's like a combination of use your common sense, motive matters. So they say the new label is meant to strengthen transparency with viewers and build trust between creators and their audience. Some examples of content that requires disclosure includes using the likeness of a realistic person. Makes sense. Digitally altering content to replace the face of one individual with another's, or synthetically generating a person's voice to narrate a video. So if you're pretending to be somebody you're not, pretending somebody is somebody they're not, the beauty filters they're saying is okay. Like if you're making yourself look a little bit more fancy, like the way Mr. Beast has been doing on his thumbnails, that's fine. Altering footage of real events or places, such as making it appear as if a real building caught fire, or altering a real cityscape to make it appear different than in reality. So real places, it seems like they're kind of cracking down on. They keep using examples of like a tornado heading towards New York or whatever. That makes sense. You don't want to mislead people. So that's very much, though, they're very much leaning into like the intent and the danger of misleading people. I personally don't like that, because I don't want YouTube deciding what's dangerous for us.
Right. That does seem a little bit problematic. And
I get the problem.
Correct, yes, I understand that there is a problem there. I just don't like, is it YouTube's job to decide what's wrong? I mean, if we think about like just media in general, like movies, there's CGI, there's like all this stuff in movies that go on, and we just assume that it's not real. Like if you go watch a Marvel movie or some sort of action movie, you're going to see stuff that you just know is not real, but it looks real. Yeah. But you're expecting that. You're in the mindset to expect this is fake, but it's cool and it looks real. So I think maybe YouTube should just do a better job of their messaging. Like YouTube videos, although they look real, like even a vlog or a lifestyle video, it may like look like a real life of somebody, but it's unlikely that it's actually the real life of that person. So if YouTube just worked on that messaging, like these are curated videos to give a very certain feel and idea. And, anyway, I don't know if this is making sense, but I don't think it's YouTube's job to say this instance and this instance and this instance is problematic. To me, it's just educate the viewers on YouTube and say stuff on YouTube is fake. But like just be aware and be knowledgeable that when you're watching a video, there may be elements of it that's just not true. But that happens on every platform, on news platforms, in movies, like it's everywhere. It's
been happening for a long, long time. And I think the one that I understand the most is like a realistic person. Right. Like I get that you can't have, it looked like Tom Cruise said something he didn't. That's almost identity theft. But aside from that, what if a conspiracy theorist believes in, no offense if you believe in Atlantis, but let's say you believe in Atlantis, and you want to show like an AI generated image of what it could look like or what you suspect it looks like. And so you're saying like that you believe in it. You're not saying this is fake, like unicorns are fake. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you get demonetized. Like, okay, the label, sure. The label of saying, this isn't real, or this isn't a real image of Mars or whatever. But I'm afraid of what they're going to do with the repercussions in the future of saying, I don't know. They haven't said that yet, though. They're just saying you have to use the label. And if you don't use the label, eventually there might make more consequences. But they've done that for everything else. And with ads, they will demonetize or make you get partial ad revenue. And to me, that just doesn't make sense because I understand that maybe advertisers want to pay less for certain things, but there are already mechanisms in place. You already get less ad revenue for content that sponsors care less about paying for.
Right.
Minimalist channels don't make as much because those people don't spend as much money. Children's channels don't make as much because children don't spend a lot of money and advertisers have a lot of rules against advertising to them. So I don't like it when YouTube comes and says, we're going to give you less money. Like that's already built in. Okay, sure. The RPMs go down. It should not just be like this cut thing where now your video is labeled as bad because you swore in it or because of, this AI generated content. And now we're giving you less. Like let it be a natural consequence of how much the advertisers are really willing to pay less. Don't just say we get to take more now because you broke the rules.
Right.
I don't know. That's my opinion, but
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it. It's funny because even YouTube ads, I don't know what sort of process it takes to get like some of these ads on YouTube because I see very scammy ads on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Ones where it'll be like Mr. Beast's voice talking about some random totally garbage product, but it sounds like Mr. Beast. It's like, go check out, www.mrbeast, and it'll literally put his name in some random URL to get people to click. Or I've heard it of like really big podcaster voices, like AI generated. Like they're clearly not sponsoring or like connected to these products in any way, but YouTube is letting those ads run on their platform. Like, so creators can't do it, but advertisers can. That's not a problem. So like, it's like, if we're going to come after creators, are we going to come after the advertisers too who are doing that? Like, it just doesn't feel right. But okay, a couple scenarios here. Let's say, for example, we'll use the Atlantis scenario. Atlantis, you want to show what it looks like. AI generated. Then there's a centaur, but it's The Rock. And it sounds like Mr. Beast. Is that okay?
I like this.
Is it okay? Or is it like, no, because it's The Rock, but it's not The Rock's voice. It's Mr. Beast's voice. Is that too misleading?
Right.
If
I would say at that
YouTube,
point, just put the label on.
Just put it on.
Which, and I guess at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with the label, especially since it's self-reporting. I have a problem with what they might do in the future.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay. Another thought that I had. Is this going to clarify for us whether the moon landing videos are real?
Ooh.
There's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there.
There is.
And so is YouTube going to make those people put the labels on their videos?
Make them step up.
Listen, I'm not saying what's real or what's not, but there are a lot of videos like that out there where people have a lot of questions. It's like, so is YouTube going to be the one to decide whether we went to the moon or not?
Right. I mean,
okay, YouTube, that's a big responsibility.
A lot of responsibility. Yeah, it is. I mean, you're signing yourself up to make these decisions for the whole world because YouTube is the most visited platform.
Yeah, that's kind of I think it's interesting because maybe that's more of like, I don't know, is that a more moral discussion where it's like YouTube is kind of making themselves the decider, and that is a tough position to be in. And I get it. Like Google sort of had to do that, on the Google side of things in their search engine ranking pages, we will see like if you type in something about, symptoms of a heart or like how to help a heart attack or whatever, they're not going to surface results of people who write about essential oils. They're going to say, go to the hospital.
Absolutely.
And so the people who are writing articles about essential oils feel censored because they're not getting their content up. It's not what people in mainstream medicine would say accurate.
Yeah. And some people say that's a good thing.
Exactly. And so it's just like Google's had to take this sort of standpoint and say, we are the end all be all. We get to decide what's surface and what's not.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if YouTube ends up there. I just hope, based on my initial theory, that if it is just outside pressure and YouTube isn't incentivized from a view and monetization standpoint to do this, hopefully it doesn't go too far. I doubt that's the case. I think it probably will, but I don't know. I would hope that was the case just because I don't want it to hurt creators. Although I have to admit, there are some AI generated content. There are some things within content that I don't mind. Completely AI generated content, like that's super obvious, I don't love anyway. So it's like, don't care about any of that. But like the stuff where it's meaningful, I think it all comes back down to those definitions. It's like meaningful. Well, what does that mean? It's like, who's going to decide that? And I think that's a big question. And for now, it's creators who get to decide, I guess, is what it sounds like. But is that always going to be the case?
And I hope it's the right people that get kind of punished for this, like the people that are truly trying to be very misleading.
Right.
You think of these spam channels that come up all the time.
Yeah.
And they get shut down in a few days.
Yep.
So YouTube saying, oh, there's going to be consequences for this if, it's repeatedly ignored. Like, that's not going to help us deal with these spammers. There's already consequences for being a spam channel. And they're going to get taken down as fast as they can. And this is not going to speed that up. But is this going to hurt the everyday creator who's just like trying to make good content? And then maybe their content looks spammy to viewers because it has this label when really it's not. They're just trying to have fun with AI content. Some things that say currently don't require disclosures are applying beauty filters, synthetically generating or extending a backdrop to simulate a moving car. But digitally altering a famous car chase scene to include a celebrity who wasn't in the original movie would require the disclosure. Like, that is so elaborate. They're getting so elaborate. So it's like, okay, well, what if I digitally altered a famous car chase, but I didn't include a celebrity? Or, you know what I mean? Like what?
Right. Where does the problem actually lie? It's probably the celebrity, I would guess.
Where is the line? Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Using effects to enhance previously recorded audio is okay. Simulating audio to make it sound as if a medical professor gave advice when the professional did not actually give that advice. So is that a specific person? Okay. Using an AI-generated animation of a missile in a video is okay. Showing a realistic depiction of a missile fired toward a real city. So is that how realistic it can be? It can look kind of cartoony if it's going towards New York. It's like they're just saying don't trick people.
Right.
But what if it's very clear in the video that it's a joke or that you're not trying to trick somebody. You're saying, oh, this could happen. And then you show that. Like, do you really have to?
Well, like anyone who watches Mr. Beast, some of his more late videos, like there are so many times, for some reason he has this thing like where he like explodes everything at the end of the video.
Exactly.
And he does like this AI explosion. It's like, but it's like pretty semi-realistic, but it's still clear that it's not real. Is he done with that? Does that go away now, or does it just have to disclose it? Like, that's just such an interesting thing. Like, to me, it's like clearly fake. And anyone, I would hope, who was watching it, but maybe if like a kid was watching it, maybe they wouldn't know. And it's like kids also don't know a lot of things. So it's just like, is it that big of a deal? Like, they watch movies and they think it's real. So
exactly.
I watched Snow White and Seven Dwarfs and got scared. Like, okay,
we don't need
animation. You know, like I don't know.
What are you gonna do? Yeah, and then so then even if it's almost beyond the label because I'm saying like, well, I'm worried about them taking ad share revenue and things like that. But let's say it's just the label. It's only consequence. But then Mr. Beast has to either not use the explosion in 2 seconds at the end or use it and put the label on. And then are people going to wonder if all his challenges are fake?
Right.
Like it is a little bit of a big thing. I don't know how people will take it. If people don't take the label too seriously, then it won't have to be a big thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. People can fake anything. It almost seems like just use your common sense anyways.
Right.
Like there could already be a fake video of a fake tornado going toward New York.
Yeah.
Just don't trust everything you see on the internet.
Yeah. There's actually a big push I've been seeing kind of in mainstream YouTube right now. People going after, especially big creators who are faking their content, especially those who have said they don't fake their content. It's been really interesting to see. There's a lot of these sort of exposed channels, which I think that they have some use, but sometimes I think it's just for views. But there's a lot of talk about just real content versus fake content. I think that's a big discussion happening on YouTube already. So I just wonder if like going after the AI side of things is just like, is this the most important thing right now?
I know.
Is it just a hot topic? Is that why we're doing it? AI and like real versus fake, like this is happening in mainstream media. I mean, maybe you've heard like all the things going on with the royal family, like AI or like altered photos. I think it's Kate Middleton. She hasn't been seen for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And people have been putting pressure on the royal family to put out photos or say, like, is she okay? What's going on? They put out a photo, photoshopped. And it was just like clearly photoshopped, like her and her kids smiling. And it was just like all pieced together. Like people tore it apart and could tell like it was just fake. It was just like there was some deception intended there. And so like I do think it's a problem. I think like there is some deception going on all over. I just think that it's not someone's job to decide what's right or what's wrong. It's about education of the viewership.
And in that case, are they going to put a label on it saying AI? Like, if people are going to lie, they're going to lie.
Yep.
It's not going to help.
Exactly.
Like, it's just going to make people more suspicious of the people that are trying to be transparent, I think. Yep. It's funny. Like you were saying about some of the ads on YouTube being so scammy themselves. Mm-hmm. I saw a meme about that. It makes me laugh. I have to find it. The guy saying like, you get this warning on the YouTube video that it's, maybe misleading information. And then the ad for it is some Miracle Growth
Yeah.
hair
Yeah.
spray that
Fake.
like
Yes.
fake, completely fake thing. And it's kind of a joke at some point. It's not stopping the spam accounts. It's not stopping the real problem. It's just kind of hindering everybody else. Like if you're trying to trick people, you're not going to put this label on.
Right.
And they're saying the only problem is if you're trying to trick people.
Yep.
And they're not even really saying there's consequences aside from they're going to put the label on for you. But then they're deciding, like you said, they're deciding, is the moon landing real? Is this whatever image they did real? And at what point do they get to decide? How sure do they have to be? I don't like it. The more we talk about it, the more I don't like it, but whatever. At first I was like, oh, it seems reasonable, but I don't know how they could do better. I don't have ideas, so I guess I can't complain too much, but good discussion though.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Very interesting. I'm just interested to see where it'll go.
Yeah.
I imagine it will continue on, or maybe it'll just fizzle out. Maybe AI, like there's just been so much hype with AI over the last year and a half as it's really emerged mainstream. And so maybe that'll just chill out as people get more and more familiar with it. At the end of the day, I think platforms are held responsible to some extent for the information that's being put out. And so they have to do something. And I don't know, they're going to try and implement a kind of a one-size-fits-all sort of thing, and it's just not going to work for everybody. And I think as creators, we just have to learn how to adapt, figure out what works and what doesn't on our channels, and just move forward from there.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. Cool. Well, we'll keep an eye on this as well as other YouTube news. And I will put this YouTube notes on the AI rules, everything they have said about it so far, which is not much. It's like a page, but I will link it in the show notes. I'm going to look for that meme too, because it's awesome. All right, see ya.